To the people who are joining us virtually, Jennifer Henson is our virtual room host, so if you have comments that you want me to hear, please send them to Jennifer because I'm going to try to pay attention to the chat, but I know I will fail. And for those of you in the room, we're glad you're here. If you have your copy of Playworks, I invite you to get it out. We're going to be talking about this book today. I did put pencils on the table if you want to write your name in your book. I know not everybody is comfortable writing their name in a book, but there are 400 and some copies of this floating around the building right now, so you might want to keep track of it. And you look beautiful today. I'm Saundra Frerichs. I'm with Nebraska 4-H, and I will be talking to you today from the perspective of one of the people who helped plan the conference and helped pick this book, and to tell you a little bit more about what's in the book and what we have planned for book clubs.
Yeah, absolutely. Good morning. I saw some of you in the last session. So my name is Laura Cady, and I am an early literacy specialist in a joint position between Nebraska Children and Families Foundation and the Nebraska Department of Education. Saundra and I have just recently chatted about book clubs, and I happen to have a lot of experience in that area, so I'm really excited to be here. And I can't wait to talk about why play works.
Okay. Welcome. I have to admit I'm a little bit scattered because I'm trying to do lots of things, including help coordinate the conference and lead this workshop. So forgive me if I'm taking a minute every now and then to look at my notes. But I do want to tell you, we picked this book very intentionally because we think it's going to really be useful for all of us, because it's got this really great combination of research about why play works and also learning from experience. The author, Jill Vialet, and her team have been working in after-school programs for 25 years, well, in schools, not just in after-school programs, and their job, they are contracted by schools to play with the children. They do a lot of recess supervision, do a lot of coming into schools that aren't currently doing recess at all because they don't have the staffing to support that and providing support. So they have been playing with lots of kids over the last 25 years. So there's a lot that they have learned from their experience. And I wanted to do a little bit of getting to know the people in the room here. And we're going to play a little bit. So for those of you in the room, I want you to stand up if you have high school youth in your program, whether they are staff or volunteers. If you've got high school youth in your program, that is awesome. And how many of you, they're staff? Most of you, the high school youth in your program are staff. Okay, great. You can sit down. How about middle school? Do we have anybody who is working with middle school age youth? And are they staff or volunteers in your program, or are they the participants? Participants, okay. This helps me to, you can sit down. This helps me to have a sense of what type of playing we want to think about, because all humans need to play, no matter how old we are. But play looks different as we grow and mature. So we want to think about playing not just for young children, but for older children. Let's see, what's my next question? Okay, stand up if you have elementary age youth in your program. And raise your hand if most of the youth in your program are 4th grade or higher. Probably, okay. Well, that's typical. All right, you guys, you can sit down. That's really helpful to know too. Most of the kids that are served by our after-school programs are K through 3rd grade, and it looks like that's typical for those of you that are working with elementary youth here too. And my last one: stand up if you have a gym that you can play games with the kids in. For those of you that on virtual, it's almost everyone in the room, but not all of us have access to a gym. Stay standing if you have an outdoor space that is safe and fun to play in. Okay, that's good to know too. Okay, thank you all. It really does help me to think about how we want to play. Thank you so much, Jennifer. Okay. All right, the book, Why Play Works. In addition to what you have in the book, there's some great online resources, and these are also on your handout. There's an online version of the game library. In addition to what you have in the book, it's got more games, and it's easier to search than to go through the book. So check out the online game library as another resource. Recess Lab is yet another resource from Playworks that is specifically about how to handle some of those transition times. They're thinking about getting kids to and from recess, and also some of the behavior management challenges that come with play. So that's another really good resource to check out. And the last one is Work Play Bounce. That is a site from Playworks, but it is focused on games to play with adults. And so that is a place to look. Maybe if you have high school age youth you're serving, they might like some of those games better. They might like some of the other games better. But also if you want to do some play with your staff, like if you've got a monthly staff meeting and you want to take 5 minutes to do a little bit of play, that's a great resource for that too. Part of what we want to do with this book club is make sure you have access to all the resources that are going to make this so you get the most out of the book that you can. That's what I'm trying to say. So sorry, I feel awful having to look at my notes so much, but in this book, you're going to discover why it's important to intentionally integrate play into your programming and how play can help your students. It helps kids learn how to manage risk, develop greater self-awareness and self-control, and build confidence through play. You're going to find ways of incorporating play that contribute to having a responsive and responsive to your participants and controlled learning environment. We're going to find real examples of leveraging play from the perspective of schools that help develop youth leadership, student agency, and of course the game library. And we're also going to be talking about how to incorporate play into after-school programming with a focus on youth development and helping young people reach their full potential. One of the ways we're doing this is through the virtual book club. The book club is going to meet once a month for the next 5 months. And this schedule is on your handout as well, so you can see the dates and times. You will see that book club. It is attached in Sketch. That was weird. Did your volume come back on? Ashley, did you have something you wanted to say to us? Maybe it was just an accident. Yeah. Yes. And for most of the workshops at the conference, if the facilitator had time, handouts have been uploaded in Sketch. Okay, thank you. Okay, so the book club meets virtually once a month. For each session, we're going to be having just a few pages, 30 to 40 pages that we're going to talk about each time. So we tried to break it up into manageable chunks and be real clear on what pages we're talking about at each session So you're welcome to join in the middle. If you weren't able to make the first one, but you're able to be there for the third one, you know what pages we're going to be talking about, and you can read just those pages. You don't have to read the pages that we're not talking about, because the way the book works, you're going to catch on. It's not something that you have to read it cover to cover in order to get much out of it. Book clubs will be about an hour long. We'll talk more about that. Okay. Benefits of play. I think this is the next slide. Okay. As I said before, all humans need to play, and we talked a little bit about this in the opening too. It helps children develop the skills that they need to get along with others, to regulate their emotions, those sort of things. It contributes to physical development and physical health, but it also helps adults. Adults need to play as much as children do, and particularly for those of us who are aging, which I feel like I am right now. Um, it helps contribute to mental health and to sustaining memory and all of those sort of declines that come with age. Play helps alleviate that. So it is important for all of us to play, not just something that little children need. We often think about play as something that preschoolers do, but actually play is something that humans need to do at all stages in their life cycle. And in the book, you'll see there's more than one way to think about play. There's a lot of recess type games or whole group games you can play with your students. They also do a lot of thinking about play in terms of sports and how you can incorporate that. Most of us, I don't think, are coaching youth in our programs, but you may want to share this resources if you've got other community partners that come in to do more of that coaching in sports sort of work. So this is a great resource for that too. So why don't you open your book to page 27. This is a section about the importance of caring adults in this. And I'm going to give you a prompt to talk about at your table, but then I think I've got the wrong version of my PowerPoint up, so I'm going to make a switch. But what I want you to do is think about a caring adult that was important to you as you were growing up. It might be a caregiver, a family member, it might be a teacher, or an after-school program leader, a coach. Think about who gave you that sort of relationship that was important in your development. For me, it was a Girl Scout leader that was a caring adult that was really important in my life as I was growing up. And what I'd like you to do is have a little bit of a conversation at your table. Introduce yourself and where you're from if you're not all from the same program, and share who was your caring adult. And then I'll put up some discussion questions. But first, I want you to just go around the table, introduce yourself, and who was that caring adult that was important to you. And you too, if you want to have a discussion at 2, you're welcome to, or join another table. Those of you who are joining online, I invite you to have this same discussion online through the chat. I think some of the conversations are wrapping up. We will have a little bit more time to talk later. So this is kind of the introduction to give you an idea of what this book is about and what resources you're going to find in it. Now I'm going to hand the microphone to Laura, and she's going to talk to us a little bit about what it's like to be in a book club, what that experience is like. If, like me, you've never done this, I've never been part of a book club, so I wanted to give you an idea of what it might feel like to be in a book club. And especially this type of book club where you're learning professionally together.
Sorry, Jennifer and I were talking, we were nerding out over books. So hopefully I was listening enough to the question. Just kidding. So again, Laura, nice to meet all of you online as well. I was an elementary teacher for over 10 years. So most of my experience with book clubs has to do with, you can imagine it, guided reading, daily 5, all of that fun stuff. Not only did I do that in English, but then I decided to do it in Spanish as well. So I was a dual language teacher at Liberty Elementary School here in Omaha, just down the street actually, for several years. And then I moved to Bogota, Colombia to teach down there. But I have a lot of experience teaching children how to read. And in this new role, I'm an early literacy specialist. And funny joke that I love to tell everyone is that it took me about a year to figure out what that means. And we're at about a year and 1 month. So, so part of my first year, I've had a lot of mentors and wonderful people. Deborah Monick, who is online. I see you. Thank you. You've been one of my #1 fans. I've had a lot of people who have suggested things, to try to figure out what an early literacy specialist is. No, I'm just kidding. But really, Abby Burke, who worked at Nebraska Department of Ed, was my colleague, and she said, you should do a book club. And I think that you should do this book that NACE just published called Literacy Learning for Infants, Toddlers, and Preschoolers. So it was basically an idea by a friend of mine, my colleague and friend, and she told me to do it, and I just said, okay. And I was super nervous, and I planned a lot, and about 3 or 4 people showed up because that's how it goes. And those 3 or 4 people were really loyal and dedicated and excited and showed up and most of them had read. And, we just had conversations. It was a safe space where we can talk about what we're passionate about. We can get new ideas from the book. Sometimes we're just going through the chapter. Sometimes we're just having conversations about our lives and how this relates to it. And then the other part is networking, right? I am new in this world outside of teaching where it's a lot more abstract. A lot of it is listening and networking and then figuring out how to put those pieces together. And so it's been wonderful because not only have we I work at Nebraska Children, Families Foundation, but Nebraska Department of Ed, we've had ESUs, we've had, it's really just been people across the state that are coming and connecting monthly. So after about, probably 2 months. So we did it more or less every 2 weeks we would read 1 chapter. And so it was probably 20 pages of reading. I highly recommend this book for anyone that works with infants, toddlers, and preschoolers. It's fantastic. It gives a lot of ideas for how we can be more culturally responsive, which is kind of my area of, I would say, passion, but how we can change our centers so that our students feel a little bit more represented, and ask parents to bring in packages from home so that when the kids are in the supermarket center, then they feel like, oh, I know that. I've seen that before, and making connections. So this book is fantastic. After we finished that book club, we moved on to making schools work, bringing the science of learning to joyful classroom practice. This has been another wonderful book. It reminded me a lot of my teaching in Bogota. I worked at a British school, and the British school philosophy is really, really similar to what this book talks all about. It's a lot about collaboration, resilience, risk-taking, that type of thing. Also, the content is not the most important. Connection is really important. So again, just a couple of titles that have been really great. If you're interested, if you have any desire to learn more about these books, you can absolutely contact me. I would be super happy to talk about your own book club or helping you in any way with that. But what I told Saundra is, well, I have a lot of experience with kiddos. I'm still learning how it works with adults, but I think that overall it's just been a really wonderful experience for a lot of intelligent, wonderful people to come together and talk about things that they care about to make our jobs better and our lives better. And, you know, it's just been really, really nice. So if you have any questions, I did not prepare a speech. So, but yeah, that's been my experience with book clubs. And I will be helping facilitate as well. We'll be co-facilitating, or I'm not sure. I'll help however I can. So hopefully we'll get to know each other better as well through this experience. But if you have any questions, I will have my email to share as well. Thank you.
Are there any questions for Laura? Does anybody else in the room have experience? Have you done a book club with your students or with your staff? Logan, you want to share a little bit?
I haven't done it with my students or staff, but I have like in person.
Uh-huh. Can you tell us about it? Because most of us haven't. What's it like to be in a book club?
We talk about books. No, it's pretty fun. So we really just we obviously get the same book, read it, and then we sit down and discuss, and at least a better understanding of the material, because no two people have the same inner workings in their minds. So if I read one sentence and someone reads another sentence, it's very subjective of what we take away from that, and coming to a mutual understanding of what that is can enhance the experience of the book. And it's also very hard to get people to attend sometimes.
And that's really what we want to do, make this a place where we can come together. We're going to be talking about play, but we're also talking about working with kids and what makes after-school programs work. And all of those things are going to be part of the book club experience. Jennifer.
So Becky online said, I have been part of several professional book clubs. It's been productive to have each person take turns being the lead facilitator for each meeting.
That's a great idea. And one of the things that we're going to be looking for is some co-facilitators for this book club. I don't know that we'll have everybody in the group take turns, but we are going to be looking for people who can help be co-facilitators of the experience. So what you can expect from the book club, I'm going to put together a facilitator's guide, which is the discussion questions, kind of the outline, the flow, and then we're going to totally abandon it when we get into it because we're going to follow the conversation as it occurs. But each month, I will have that facilitator's guide available for you. So my vision for this is that our site directors and program leaders come to the virtual book club, because it is during your workday. Not all of your staff are going to be able to join a book club at 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning. They're going to, those of you who are here virtually or in person are going to come to the book club. You're going to have some conversation with colleagues. You're going to get excited about that section of the book. And then a week later or so, you're going to facilitate a book club locally with your own team where they get to talk about it. You've got some new ideas to share from what happened in the virtual book club. You can bring some new ideas into your program, and the staff that work together on a regular basis can also really think about how this applies in our program. How can we do this in our space? What are the games that our kids are going to like to play because they're 7th graders, or because we've got a lot of 2nd graders, and what are going to be appropriate games for them to play? So I really hope that the idea of having a virtual book club and an in-person book club will let us expand this across the state. And everybody who came to the conference today received a copy of this book. If you need to order additional books for your team, they're $15 on Amazon. I've seen some as low as $5. If they're used, but I don't know what quality that is, but I imagine that a used book would also work. The other thing is, I know that we ordered more than 430 books. I don't know exactly where those extra books are, but if you are excited about doing a book club with your staff and you need a few extra books and you reach out to me, I will try to find them for you. Because we really do want this to be, the conference committee want this to be an ongoing professional development experience that Nebraska after-school programs are really digging into this year. Any questions or comments from the chat that we need to pay attention to? That's awesome. Okay, we're going to play a game. So for this, everybody needs to, well, I'll say everybody needs to stand up. Let's wait a minute. Raise your hand if you've played rock, paper, scissors before. Okay, we've got enough people in the room who know how to do it. I apologize to the virtual participants. I did not think about how to do this virtually. So you may have to wait for a few minutes. Okay, we're going to play a game that in your book is called Rochambeau. And that's because they do Rochambeau. Actually, it's Rochambeau. And on the bow, you do your scissors, your rock, or your paper. Okay, so that's how they play the game, Rochambeau. And we're going to have everybody in the room find somebody to play the game, play rock, paper, scissors with. The person who wins will go find another winner from one of the other partners. The person that they played their first game with becomes their supporter. And you're going to help them find somebody else to play. And you're going to cheer them on. And then whoever wins the second round, they're going to have 3 supporters, right? And move on to find somebody else to play with. And each round, the group of supporters gets bigger until we get to the point where we're about divided in half. And we have 2 people for the final round. When we get to the last 2 people, let's try to stop so we can make a big deal out of it. Does that make sense? Rochambeau. Everybody stand up. And find somebody to play with. All right, who are our last 2? Wait, you got to introduce yourselves.
Wait, how many? Are we sure? Okay, you 2 play. How many winners are there?
We have 2 winners or 3? Yes, come on up. All right, we've got the last 3 people. I'm going to have you introduce yourself to the virtual team.
Okay, so I'm Lisa Jansen from Gordon Rushville.
I'm Abby Van Dyke from Lincoln.
Brenda Clark from Omaha.
All right, let's have Abby and Brenda start. Okay, if you're cheering for Abby or Brenda, let's hear it. Who's for Abby? Oh, say something. They can't hear you. Who's for Abby? All right. Who's for Brenda? All right, now go. That was 2 scissors, 2 rocks, 2 scissors. All right, scissors cuts paper. Brenda wins. All right, what was your name again?
Lisa Jansen.
Okay, Brenda and Lisa. Row. Okay, scissors cuts paper. Brenda won with scissors both times. Woo! All right, thank you. Thank you for playing along, and I'm going to have you go back to your seats, so I've got some discussion questions to follow up this activity. And I think if you are joining us virtually, you probably can participate in this discussion because we all have experienced winning and losing. So first, I'd like you to take a minute to talk at your table about how it felt to lose a match and what your thoughts were about that. One of the things I wanted to point out, did you notice that almost everyone in this room lost today? Okay, go ahead and have a little bit of a conversation. And then how did it feel to win? And that kind of comes from the kids themselves, but that's one of the ways they approach it. Are we ready to come back together? Jennifer, are there any highlights from the virtual discussion that we want to share with the rest of the group?
I've got all sorts of fun comments in the chat. They're very chatty in here. So Becky said losing is always a little bit of a bummer, but she loves being part of the game so much that it never bothers her much. Winning's nice, but not the part of playing that brings her the most joy. And then Deb said that she reminds her children when there's an event that there's usually a winner and a loser at the end, but what did they learn in the process? And then Deb goes on to say, I need to remind the adults on Sunday morning after the Husker games as well. So, And then Becky, there's like, they've been very, seriously, very chatty. It's great. Becky said, I'm fascinated with how fun interacts with learning and remembering.
Thank you for the virtual participants. Anybody from the room want to share anything from your table discussion? I'm standing by this table. Do you guys have? Yes, talk so they can hear you.
We were just discussing about how to be gracious, to be a great winner and a great loser, and teaching that aspect of playing a game.
That was discussed over here too. Any other highlights from this table?
We talked about with winning how you said we didn't call them losers, we called them supporters, so it can keep their mind off of how they lost so they can support the winner. And then if you win, it makes you feel accomplished. And if they don't, then it can teach them early sportsmanship to be grateful that they made it that far.
How about this table? Anything from your discussion or answer to one of those questions? Yes.
We basically said that if you care about the game a lot and you find yourself losing a lot, it's going to start to take more of a toll.
There's a lot of emotions that come with playing. It does. Anything from over here?
We talked about how a benefit.
I'm going to have you use the microphone so the online people can.
We talked about how one benefit of losing was that you gained the supporters, so it was kind of like you got some friends.
Yeah, you became part of a group, a team, yeah. How about this table? Anything you wanted to add?
We talked about just how important it is to learn to be a good loser or a good supporter. Because, I mean, as we saw with this example, most of the time you're not going to win.
Yeah.
And we teach the younger kids in our group, the rhyme, it's okay if I don't win, I can try again. And they say that to themselves a lot, and it helps.
It's one of the things as I was reading this that it struck me that we had in our room one winner, and everybody, that was the only person who didn't experience losing. Everybody else in the room had the experience of losing as we played the game. And I think that is important because we don't always win, especially when we're Huskers. But chances are it's not going so bad this year. So one of the things that I wanted you to experience in this is that it's fun to play. You know, it's fun to get up and physically move and play. Humans need play. I mentioned that earlier. As humans, we learn strategies for dealing with conflict through play. And one of the things that has emerged in the work with PlayWorks is that rock, paper, scissors becomes a strategy for reducing conflict on the playgrounds. If you got two kids that are arguing, they can use rock, paper, scissors to settle their argument. Humans need opportunities to experience winning and losing in order to learn how to do that gracefully and to empathize. And that's one of the things that this game helps us understand. So, some key ideas to take away. We hope everybody will take some time to read the book. And that's one of the reasons that we've had the structure of the book club. You only have to read a few pages each month and you get through it. And it is going to be a benefit, we hope, to your program. I also hope that you will join the book club, and I am looking for people who would like to facilitate breakout rooms because the goal is that we will divide up into groups of no more than 8 people for our discussion so that you have time to have a good discussion. A big enough group to have different ideas, but not so much that you don't get a chance to talk. So I'm looking for some co-facilitators to help with that. If you are interested, you can let me know after the session here. I also hope that you will take the ideas in the book and use them to lead a book club for your own staff. I think that's going to be a really good way to bring this to more of our staff and after-school programs, and a different way to do some professional development with your team. And I most of all hope that you will use the book to get some new ideas and have fun playing with the kids in your program. There are lots of game ideas in the library at the back of your book, and I also shared those links to even more ideas online, so that we want to both think about what do kids benefit from play and how do we set up play so that it's really beneficial for the youth in our programs. But we also just want to have fun and play together, because that's how we build relationships. And as Silva said in her remarks, that sense of belonging and having a relationship with a caring adult are some of the most important outcomes of being part of your after-school program. So we hope this book will support you in that as well. Thank you all.